Hi there. Welcome to Life Between Coasts, the podcast where we dive into our personal journeys connected through synchronicity. So grab your coffee, light a candle, and let's begin. I'm your host, Leah, and we're glad you're here. Today, we're sitting down with Nichole. Welcome, Nichole. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. But first, a couple things, how I bring in my different guests and people to come and visit and sit on the couch, let's say. I like to let the listening audience know how we met. So there's random things that I do. And one of the things was coming out of anesthesia after a colonoscopy. So that's how we were first introduced. And here I'm pulling for business cards and saying, here, be on my podcast, listen to it, subscribe, like, and share. And you did. Yeah. You reached out to me and said, I want to be on your show. So tell me about you.
So I have a very interesting story.
Okay.
I actually am not from Michigan, but I'm from Ohio. I had a very interesting upbringing.
Okay.
I am a child out of wedlock of two 18-year-old children that got divorced within a year.
Okay.
Went their separate ways. Both continued to get married three more times.
Oh, each of them?
Each of them.
Oh, goodness.
Times. And back in those days, I'm not that old, but I feel like the world has changed dramatically since back in those days. But back in those days, there were no such thing as Amber Alerts. My mom packed up one day when I was 1 and took off with a man that was my dad's friend.
Okay. Not to laugh. I'm sorry, but not expected.
Yeah. To Atlanta, Georgia from Ohio.
Okay.
And my dad couldn't find me for 6 months.
So she just left with you and never called. Okay.
Well, my dad was contacting the police, but he kept getting met with, well, she's with her mom, she's okay.
And what, not disclosing your age, let's say, what decade are we talking about?
How old was that at the time?
You were 1, you said.
Yeah.
So so if you don't want to disclose your
age. I'm 47.
Okay, so we're actually within a year of each other. So again, during that period of time, a lot of people expect that it was always the mother offered the best care and the defense. Absolutely. That's where Adam comes from, but the defense for the father. So I can see this. So continue, please.
And full circle, my mother and I have a great relationship today. But yes, at that time, my mother wasn't making sound decisions.
Okay.
She was in love with a man who was extremely abusive to her, to me, to my siblings, that my 2 brothers that came from him and her marriage. So it led us down a path, at least for the first 12 years of my life, down a path, because that's when my mother and I split paths. I had woke up one morning and my brother was in trouble and he was getting hurt, and I'm 12 and I'm upset. So I go to, and my mom's taking me to school, which is Catholic school, nonetheless, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Dad's got jokes.
Yes. He does.
He does.
We do.
Yeah. But it was a very long drive for myself and my other younger brother. And we had just had enough at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the oldest. And my mom was begging me all the way to school to keep quiet, to not say things,
Mm-hmm.
and, to clean my act up before I got there. So I couldn't. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a 12-year-old girl.
Yes. No.
And my teachers, I think they probably had been watching me for a really long time.
Yeah.
Were kind of aware. And that's even different today.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of what my life is about, is how cycles repeat themselves even when we don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
But in the midst of all of it, my horrible, which I consider horrible, most my children definitely consider horrible upbringing, led me to who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still able to succeed in life in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and be an amazing mom, which is my most proud accomplishment.
Yes.
That I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you went into school that day, did the teacher approach you, or did...
I did. I went straight to my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And they called Child Protective Services.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, I was taken to my aunt's house, my mom's sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was because it's like such a traumatic moment in your life.
It is.
I remember sitting outside. Just my aunt was out in the middle of the country with these weeping willow trees. It was like God just came down right with me. It was like, I'm here, Nichole. Cats were my favorite animals. And my aunt had cats, and I just sat there the whole weekend, just, because on the way to my aunt's, I had been told that Child Protective Services told my mom and my stepfather who turned them in, which they already knew. But as an adult, as a kid, I didn't recognize that they were tricking me with that statement. And as an adult, with, many years of therapy, it was brought to my attention that they probably were not telling the truth. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. It was like, yeah, well.
Because you at 12, you're not supposed to be experiencing those things.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be making an adult decision to rescue yourself from a situation.
Mm-hmm.
There shouldn't be...
And my brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's tough because, every time you turn on the news and you hear about some incident, and it's just like, oh, you want to reach the TV and just say, how could you do that to such an innocent child, to an innocent being?
Mm-hmm.
So now, how long were you placed with your aunt at that point, or
no,
or what exactly happened?
I knew that they were coming back for me at the end of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that was even more of
the anxiety.
Yeah, I was just like, what is he going to do to me? I had no idea. They were silent all the way home.
Okay.
I was terrified in the backseat, just like, oh my gosh. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
And we pulled down my street, and I'll never forget it. My dad was parked on the street, and I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But I knew that I was safe.
That you weren't going to be in that.
Yes, I was not going to be in harm's way. Whatever was happening, my dad was there, because we didn't have cell phones. I had no way to know if my dad even knew anything about what was going on then.
Right.
So, and I only got to see him every other weekend because it was, and I understand being pro mom. I completely 1,000%. I'm a mom myself. I have 4 children. But I just view it as a mom and a dad, when separated, deserve the same amount of time and the same amount of bonding experience for that child to grow up and have healthy relationships with both of them.
And I agree with that. And especially in that period, my parents never, I was not in that situation. I always joke, there's, I have an uncle, my Uncle Joe, and he was my aunt's second husband, and they had 2 kids, and he adopted her first 2 children. And when they divorced, he would still come around on Christmas Eve, and pick the kids up on Saturday for their weekend overnight or whatnot, or he would come and get them on the weekend. And not to take away from you, but I was always jealous because it's still an ongoing joke, 40 years later, because it was like, I want to go with Uncle Joe too. And he would go to church, go bowling or wherever, go do something fun.
Yeah.
But it was like, I want my parents to be divorced too, because you get all of this extra fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's always, now when I see him, it's, hey, Uncle Joe, can I go bowling? So will you take me bowling? So it's one of those fun things that we do. But you're right about that giving equal time is very important, because it creates a well-rounded child.
Yes.
And yes, during our raising, from the dawn of having kids, it was always the mother was the best caretaker.
Yes.
But sometimes it's not always true.
Right.
So it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
So now your dad was there.
My dad was there.
You were probably like just
elated.
I could, as a 12-year-old girl, yes, I could see this.
Yes, because I was in pure terror all the way there. So of course they didn't tell me. That was more of his torture for me, right?
Yeah, that was.
So, we get out of the car and we go inside, and my mom, made a decision at that point. She's not proud of it. We've had lots of conversations about it, but she basically packed my room up and said that I was going to go stay with my dad and I wasn't welcome there. And never was I planning for that, but it happened. And then as a 12-year-old girl, I think you go into, how can my mother do that to me? But at the same time, my dad was great to me. He was the opposite of everything I needed in that moment. He was a comfort place for me. It was, my dad just might get mad once every 5 years. And when he does, we're all terrified. It's like,
right.
So it's like just the complete opposite of the spectrum. So but I still left my brothers behind in that.
I was going to ask, and how did you as a 12-year-old reconcile that? Thinking that you were going to help rescue them too.
Yeah.
And then they were still there.
Yeah. That's been more challenging as an adult, because I think I was still going through my own mess as, my teenage years, trying to figure out even what my life what was gonna happen. But as an adult, I felt a lot of guilt around. But they were his sons, his blood sons. I couldn't do anything, But my brother, neither one of my brothers does not speak to his father at all today. And my brother, that's 4 years younger than me, but slightly older than my youngest brother, which would have been his firstborn son. They tend to bond a little bit more. And my brother has had the hardest time to stay away, but usually once he revisits the relationship within a very short period of time, it's he has to let it go again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he tries. Hey, that's where the spigot thing comes in. It's the turning on and shutting off, So it's like you can control the stream of how much you want somebody into your life.
Yes.
You can, and sometimes you do have to shut that off completely.
Yes.
And so that's a good, like, in your brain just to think about turning on the faucet and shutting it off. So you try because it's your parent.
Yes.
You want to have a good relationship. My mister, he is a gregarious person. You had the honor of meeting him that day of me coming out of anesthesia, but unfortunately, he doesn't speak with his siblings. We about 6 months ago, he lost one of them, one of the first, but he hasn't had a relationship with them in probably 8 years or better, maybe longer, 10 years. And it's hard to see because I am an only child, or grew up an only child, having my brother passed when I was 4. So for most of my life, I was the only child. So it's like I didn't have anybody to depend on. And so when I see a family and I see siblings and I see the parents alive and healthy, I'm like, love the minutes, take in the moments and be present with everybody.
Yeah.
But sometimes those personalities, you do have to step away from that toxic atmosphere. I hate to use that word, but it is, because it's an energy. You feel it when you walk in and it just drains
it's an
you.
Angst and like anxiety, that you can feel around certain people, or like even for me, there's so much of I've had to I love my brothers deeply. So for me to go around them, they, of course, would be a spitting image of my abuser, up until the age of 12.
Yes. Yes.
And the way their voice and the way they talk. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so bizarre. Genetics are torture sometimes.
They are. They are, definitely. Yes, they are. Now, so how long, now you moved with your dad at age 12 then. Now, did you stay there through high school or?
So then, because my dad was the complete opposite of like extremely strict military style household, I wasn't allowed to have any friends. I couldn't go to basketball games. I could, name it. We couldn't do it.
Okay.
To free reign.
Yeah.
And I just went through all of that trauma. So I feel like, looking back as an adult, like I had a brother who's 11 months younger than me. And who my dad actually adopted from his third marriage, my 2 siblings.
Okay.
It's funny how that mirrored. But we went to high school, together. So it kind of was good for me in a way because he already had a friendship base, and here I am, the new girl coming in.
Yes.
And I was very shy at the time, extremely shy. Where I probably wouldn't have talked to anybody. I was terrified.
Right. I know. It's easy to be a wallflower.
Yeah. But then I ended up meeting a boy who paid attention to me and liked me, and I ended up pregnant at the age of 16. And my son is amazing. He's 29 and married, and been married for 7 years. So that's why I say my most successful accomplishment in life is being a good mom.
No, that's wonderful. Now at 16, that's, 4 years into living under your dad's roof, a little bit more free reign, so less checking in and, being more like the free range. I understand that. Again, one of my mom was one of 8 girls, so I think of the different households and which households were the free range households, and ones. My mom was extremely strict, not as military strict, but just but still lovely at the same. But there were certain things that I had to make sure that I was in line with. But at 16, similar, not me necessarily, but I have a cousin. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but we were 3 months apart. He was born in December. I was born in April. 4 months apart. And at 16, he became a father. And so there's the two of us, living our lives at the same age. So within your 11 months, and seeing the difference, and I watched what he went through, from a distance, well, family as well, but to see how he didn't continue his education and he didn't do certain things, and he actually had a different style of life. And like I said, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. And so that was a little bit crushing. That was not just a little bit, that was a lot crushing, because he was the closest thing age-wise, like, to having a sibling, that I would have. And he was Uncle Joe's youngest. So that was, so there was always that, but that was how it was. And, so at 16, we also had, I remember several girls within our school had children. And I always just felt for, like, how is it, like, kids raising kids, children raising children, how you think about that in your brain as an adult. You look back and say, gosh, you don't have that much life experience. How can you teach teach your child? So how did you feel? How was that received?
That's what's odd is, when I look back and I look at my daughters now that are 20 and 23 and they think they know everything, right?
Right.
So it's like, of course I thought I knew everything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I was a straight A student in school. Like, I'm doing. It was naivety,
Yeah.
But it did make me go into motherhood in a different way where I wasn't afraid.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were, one, that's how my mom and I got back in contact with one another, because she found out I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And one, I can't remember which was which, but one wanted me to give him up for adoption. The other wanted me to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And they raised me right. And I was like, I can't do either. I'm sorry. I'm carrying him to term and I'm keeping him. And of course, they hated my boyfriend. And, that didn't, of course, they had good reason to hate him. And that didn't turn out well. But Austin is amazing. He's my son.
That's fabulous. And are all the kids in the area here?
Yes.
As well?
Yeah.
So you have constant contact with them at any given time? That's perfect. And you said now he's been married for 7 years?
Yeah.
And is he a father?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So you're not a young grandmother yet. So we're not going to cross that bridge. At least make 50, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend. She's a few months younger than I am. And she married a gentleman, his second marriage, and he had 2 kids, and they have babies, now. And so they have 2 kids together, but he had 2 kids from the previous marriage. So those kids have kids. So she makes her a grandmother. And I'm like, you're the 46-year-old grandmother.
Well, I made my grandparents at 36.
Oh, wow.
Because they had me at
18. Yes.
So I decided to break that generational curse, and I had my youngest when my oldest was 18.
Okay.
Not intentionally, but that's just how it turned out, and I think it was great birth control.
Yes. That's going back to Jerry Lynn. That's who I was speaking of, about her husband being slightly older, but her daughter was 14 when she found out she was pregnant with their second child. So yes, so that was the built-in birth control as well. It's helpful because, one, you learn a lot about life and babies and things, and it makes you grow up pretty quickly when you're responsible for another life.
Yeah.
So now, did that delay anything in school at all for you?
It did. Well, at first, because I was a senior in high school.
Right.
So, and I did get really good grades. That was my sanctuary when I was through my first 12 years of life, and I was in the first household. I was glued to my books all the time because then I couldn't be in trouble. But they allowed me to go post-secondary from high school, is what they called it at the time.
Okay.
So I would go for homeroom at the high school, and then I took 3 college courses my senior year.
Okay.
And they counted as my high school credit to graduate.
Excellent.
So then I thought I wanted to be a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down that path, and that was my major at first.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out it was going to be 12 years before I could actually practice and do what I wanted to do with it. And I have a baby. So I was like, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I decided to get practical and realize, I love taking care of people.
Mm-hmm.
So nursing was the best route.
Mm-hmm.
But even before I went into college, I had gone down my own dark path.
Okay.
Being free from school and all of those things. It took me a few years to get back into college.
Mm-hmm.
That I just had a lot of growing up to do, a lot to digest, a lot, and I couldn't concentrate on my coursework at that time.
Yeah.
So then I go to Wayne State for undergrad. It's 3 years prereqs, 2 years of nursing.
Mm-hmm.
I found out through the nursing program because you could work post-secondary is what they called it. No, that was high school. As nurse extern.
Okay.
So as soon as you did your first rotation of clinicals as a nurse, you could start working in the ICU at Harper Hospital, and I worked in the medical ICU to
Okay.
start getting my training under my belt before I graduated with nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I graduated with my IRN a couple years later, I was able to just seamlessly transfer over to the surgical trauma ICU at Detroit Receiving.
Right.
Which was amazing because I had all of that background from the medical ICU just as a student.
Yes.
So then going into the surgical trauma ICU at Detroit Receiving, the stuff people go through
Mm-hmm.
is just horrific.
Yes.
In this world.
Yes.
And that's where I got to witness most of that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to nurse people back to health. Of course, we didn't save all of them, but
Mm-hmm.
there was quite a few of them that stayed with us, 6 months, a year at a time before they were finally, put to a lower unit and then eventually sent home. But the best training I could have ever asked for sure.
Now, you were in you said ICU. What type of patients are they? Mostly injuries caused by?
So it's normally surgical trauma. So it's either a surgical-based trauma issue
Mm-hmm.
or gunshot wounds, stabbings.
Right.
We did have a burn unit right off our unit, and we would get floated over there to help with that unit sometimes. But they...
Well, and when you're in a situation like that, I think that you pick up I think anytime that you're in a situation like that, when you're seeing life being like a string almost, that balance, because it could go one way or the other. Depending on, even it comes down to the will of that person.
Absolutely.
I always say talk to hospice nurse when you want to know about, things about spirit and energies and things that people go through at the end of life. But you're trying to save life at that moment. And so you can see that person fighting to come back. And you can see that person that's given up. And which ones are going to come out.
Yeah.
And so it's just, as just being there, how do you feel that? I mean, how do you just knowing that you're going into that kind of situation every day? How do you separate yourself from that?
I think that's where they say nurses become jaded, and I don't think it's necessarily in a bad way.
Right.
I think it's a self-protection mode,
right,
that your brain just automatically puts you in because you're watching people go through horrific events in their life that you never expect to watch anyone go through.
No.
And then you have to watch the family go through the pain of watching that. And I used to equate it to being in a bad movie every day. But I look back on it as my most, and I, I love my job now. I do, but I look back on that as my most favorite job.
Excellent. Now, and I worked in medicine before I got into business. I did autopsies at U of M for nearly 5 years. And so I understand that part of it, the end part of it. And so again, knowing that balance and understanding. I have family that has worked in transplant. So again, saving lives. I've worked, I've had lots of nurses in my family. So medicine was always a big thing. So, living, healing, dying, illness, things like that. We've all been through it. But to be close up. Now, why did you transition out of an ICU situation? Why do you think you did that?
I actually had to go for my own procedure with anesthesia one day.
Okay.
And I was terrified to go under anesthesia. I don't want to do this.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing,
I'm gonna allow all these people in the room to just have control of me, like.
But you hear the horror stories.
Yes, but we try to be very conscientious of everything. But the gentleman that came out and introduced himself to me first, if he, starts talking to you about the anesthesia, even then, CRNAs were or nurse anesthetists were kind of hidden in the dark. I feel like we've become more and more apparent lately. But he had said to me, I'm going to be giving you your anesthesia. And I said, oh, you're my anesthesiologist. And he says, no, I'm your nurse anesthetist. And I said, oh, what's that? And I'm in nursing school. And so he tells me about it, and that started my curiosity down the path, especially something that piqued my curiosity on how we completely decrease the brain at a level that you can do these things to people and they're completely unaware.
Yes.
Yes. And then wake them back up.
Right. And then just snap your fingers basically and say, okay, it's time to wake up. So you were going in for your procedure or a procedure. You found out that, hey, this is something I can do.
Yes. So my other love that I found during, and this was more of a love, but I loved being an OB. When things are great, things are great. When things are bad, they're really bad, but it's mostly happy. It's mostly you're, sharing in amazing moments and bringing life into the world, and it's a great experience.
Yes.
So I went back and forth. Do I want to become a midwife? Do I want to go to anesthesia school? What do I want to do? And the student loans won.
It usually comes down to money.
I was like, oh yeah, I have a lot of student loans I need to go.
Yes. Yes. So no, that usually happens. But you, it sounds like that you're happy that you.
Oh yes, yeah.
That you
and it's a great career,
and you get to see a lot more people. Babies are great and everything too. But and you see still. I mean, I think you have more interaction with people in what you're doing. Because you're actually talking one-on-one with the patient. Whereas in being a midwife, it's that's stressful.
It is.
I mean, it's stressful in anesthesiology, don't get me wrong, but I would always say if I ever decided to go back towards a medical side, it would definitely be like dermatology or radiology
is the way to go,
because there's no emergency. You get paid like a big load of money and there's no emergencies.
Right.
Sorry, 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's what it is. So that's one of the better doctors. And then radiology, I think, would probably be another one. Depending on, just because, again, just not having on-call rotations and 24-hour shifts and things like that.
Yeah.
But now so you're currently working at the gastroenterology clinic. And how long have you been working?
So it works kind of different with us. So I had worked for a company called A4 Anesthesia.
Okay.
And they contracted A4 Anesthesia for Huron Gastro in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And then I was there, went there August of 2020 because of COVID situations at Henry Ford. And I was there 6 years and then went to the Livonia site in February.
Okay.
And I actually became a Huron Gastro employee.
Nice. Well, congratulations for that. That's nice. Now, what questions? So, what are some of the? Obviously, I was reaching for business cards, but I remember what I said to you right before I went out was like, "Wow, that does burn," because I remember it. The feeling in my arm, and I was probably talking about the podcast. And I remember waking up and looking for my purse so I could pass out the business cards to everyone to make sure they listened. Well, what are some odd things that come out of?
Oh my gosh.
Just curious. It is cool. That is fun stuff.
So a few of the funny ones, because they come in waves every once in a while. So then we'll have jokes,
of course.
Because you're almost completely out and you have no idea what you're saying. But we had a gentleman recently and all of a sudden out of nowhere, I mean, he was this, big, burly, manly guy, right? And out of nowhere, as he's drifting off to sleep, he yells, "Smurfs!" And we were like,
maybe that's what was in his brain at that moment. That's cute.
But Smurfs.
Oh, that's sweet.
The weirdest moment I've ever had, but very impactful. I had a woman who, it was a sedation case. I had a woman who, as she was almost completely asleep, like bends back and looks at me. She's like, "Do you know what I see? Do you know what I see?" And then she fell asleep. And the doctor in the room and I and the tech, we all look at each other. We're like, "I don't know if we want to know."
How did I know? And don't go to the light. Please. We need you to wake back up.
That's the other thing. I did have a patient ask that once because the anesthesiologist was like, "No." "Should I be going to the light?" "No."
Oh, that's great.
But
that's good. I'm sorry.
But that woman, even when she woke up in recovery, she remembered. She was like, as soon as she woke up, she's like, "Do you know what I saw? Do you know what I saw?" We were like, "Oh my gosh, she remembers."
Did she tell you?
She said that she saw her uncle who passed away 20 years before that.
Oh, wow.
That he took her to a barbecue. She was there for a stomach procedure with
Okay.
us. He took her to a barbecue and was telling her that she needed to eat better.
Well, hey, you know what? Maybe she wasn't getting enough fiber.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
But she was convinced that he was there with her.
You know what?
Like the way that her eyes lit up, and it was
my grandmother, my dad's mother had a I don't know exactly. It was like a bad illness. This was just after my brother had died, so it was like the middle 80s, and I think it had turned into some pneumonia or something to the fact, and she basically had an out-of-body experience. Or no, not that. She had two instances, but this time she remembers that the doctors were saying that we don't know if she's going to pull through this. And that she said she had a dream, and my brother was holding her little dog, Missy, and he said, "No, Grandma, it's not your time, and everything will be okay," and left, and she woke up the next day like nothing had ever happened. And they were like, what was going on here? And then the second out-of-body experience, she had actually had a brain tumor. She had collapsed on the floor, and then they found a tennis ball size brain tumor. And that's when she had the out-of-body experience. We're losing her. And she's like, no, I'm right here. And then she came back. She's like, what did you?
Yeah.
And she was convinced that she watched them bring her back to life.
Yeah.
And hey, it's possible. Anything's possible.
When you watch near-death experiences, there's so many people that talk about watching themselves floating above themselves.
Right, as you're working on them, trying to bring them back. I mean, and that's where the code comes in. Now, going back to just your story here, I mean, obviously, the first part is the very hard part to go through. And you had mentioned in the email when we first started setting up the appointment here, you said that you were starting a book. So is it about your life, your experience, how to say, this is what happened to me, but look, the other side is flowers, it's butterflies, it's good. My life is,
it's all working for our taste.
Well, I'm being very optimistic in this essence, but let's say, but that's what I always say. My family, I'm a sole survivor. I have no kids. My name stops with me. This is where I sit. But I don't let that define me. I don't go around telling people that. Certain instances I do, but it's just the key is that I'm present in this moment talking to you right now, and that's what I choose to be. And so it's just like, what do you want to share? What's the message that you want to put out there?
It will be a memoir because like I mentioned, it's about repeating patterns. So when someone comes out of a traumatic situation like that, I feel like we have one of two choices: to either wallow in it and go down the path of self-destruction, or we can try to rise up against it and be better than what we were raised in. And that was the path I chose. And I attribute literally all of the strength that I've had to the person who abused me most as a child. Because he made me stand up to him at the age of 12 and turn my own parents in. So it's got me through anesthesia school. It's gotten me through my own 3 failed marriages, because we repeat patterns in life. And then we also find out from the age of 0 to 7 that we absorb the most information, and it's the most impactful on how we will choose our mate in the future. And my abusive stepfather was the one who was appealing to me, or, at that age, that's what was being that's what love was at that age. So as an adult, we start to make these decisions not knowing, because it doesn't start out that way.
Right.
But I had to repeat the pattern a few times before I realized, as my dad, my biological father, would say, my picker is broken. So it's more so about being able to come through all of that and recognize it and help other people make healthier decisions on their path.
And it's choice. That's as soon as you said choice, that's where it lights up for me, because that's the biggest thing, is we all make our bed. It's our choice and how we decide to make that. Are we going to put the mattress pad and layer it with the foundation, do the mattress pad and the fitted sheet and the flat sheet, and how many blankets are we going to make our bed with, right? So it's making that bed, and it's all choices that we make for ourselves. There's outside influences that we can't control, but it's how we choose to react to that is what's going to make us the better person. Because, as you said, your father figure, let's call him, was your abuser. And the strength that it took you to stand up to that is what pushed you through the rest of your life. But at some point, it's like, is that bad strength that, when you recognize it, and you said it's still a work in progress, what do you do for yourself every day to continue that, to make sure that you're not repeating those patterns?
I think at this point I've learned it's a personality type that I am attracted to unconsciously.
Okay.
That I can't be attracted to anymore. It's only going to bring me pain.
Right. Right.
Not that it's just usually people that grow up in trauma meet people that grow up in trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And your trauma is different than theirs. And then they don't mesh.
Mm-hmm.
And you do things that trigger them. They do things that trigger you. You know, no one's at 100% at fault.
Right.
It's just not a dynamic that's healthy for the two people that got involved to begin with.
Right. Right. And sometimes that's more evident to people looking outside, from the outside looking in, trying to tell you when your head's in love. Oh, no, this one will be different.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
I mean, have all had, I think, I mean, it's the multiple partner thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's my parents met when they were 16. You know, my mom graduated high school in May and they were married by September. And so again, one of those 18, 19-year-old marriages, they didn't have kids until their mid-20s to start. But in our lifetimes now, there's not that find your soulmate or what you think is your soulmate at age 16 and you spend some years with them. You know,
very rare.
It's very, very rare to do that. So I think it's very interesting that, you know, that you recognize that there's a specific type.
Yes.
That you automatically are attracted to, but you know that you're recognizing, making the choice.
Well, I finally, at this point in life, have noticed that I'm no longer attracted to that type.
Oh,
that's
good.
a good thing.
Yeah, because you can change your brain.
Yes.
You can totally change your brain.
Yeah.
And that's
I've gone through enough at this point that I recognize that it's not a good
that you know what you need for you. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so when you think about those things, are you currently single?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently single, have 3 children, wonderful children that you said.
Four
children.
Yeah.
You said, you said 2 girls and the boy.
I had my 11-year-old son.
Oh, there's the youngest.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You said when the other one was 18.
Yeah.
So now there's, okay, wow, goodness. So that's lovely. But they keep you on your toes, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And active and doing everything. Yeah. And so sometimes you don't need something else that cause turbulence.
With amazing children.
Oh, that's fabulous. And they, now the older ones, are they all done with school or in school?
My oldest son, you know, he went down the path of, I want to be an orthodontist. I want to be a firefighter. Me being in school also, because I went to anesthesia school while divorced, and
yes,
with the 3 older ones, and they watched me study for my board. So I'm pretty sure I traumatized him with college.
Probably.
But he is now a realtor, and my first daughter, who's 23, she originally wanted to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She's talked to me about pediatric oncology, and then she went and did her 4 years at Wayne State, and while she was at Wayne State, she became a realtor before her brother did.
Okay.
And excelled exponentially, and she's like, why would I leave this life?
Yeah.
After she got her bachelor's degree, and I don't blame her. I mean, at 23 years old, your schedule's your own. It's great. So, yes, now my oldest son is a realtor.
Good.
And he's doing very well with that as well.
Good.
My 20-year-old daughter, the girls have been involved in competitive cheer or pom since they were 3 years old.
Okay.
And she's continuing with that. In college, she is excelling at atomic pom. Nice. We just won states again last weekend.
Excellent.
7 years in a row. So
excellent.
But these girls work hard.
They do.
They go to practice because they're in college. So they go to practice from 9 to midnight when they practice.
Wow.
And then the practice location isn't the same place. It's all over the place.
Right.
So.
Wow. And then the youngest is just making his way through school.
Yeah.
He would be, what, 6th grade at 11?
He is 5th grade.
5th grade going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, were good times. Those were like spelling bee times. And
I just had this conversation with him. Do you know that they don't even do spelling words hardly in school anymore?
Really?
Like this teacher never sends, because I'm always telling him, we got to work on the grammar.
Yeah, no. I remember
Maybe
fifth
because
grade.
spell check is on everything.
Well, text, social media text, all of those things have driven down the vocabulary. We used to, have over 20,000 words. Now it's like half of that.
Yeah.
Because of made up words or applying different language or old words into new things, like the alpha generation is what we keep things.
Think about, I took a typewriter class in high school. So
we didn't have computers.
Right.
I knew we had word processors, which was basically a screen with a typewriter, or it was just the typewriter. And it was to learn how to type. It was using the keyboard was the key. It wasn't necessarily the computer itself. I mean, because it was still green screens and nothing as fancy as what we have now. No, but I love it. I mean, because you think about how people say, this is what I was born into. This is what my life was. And this is all I know. So this is all I'm going to be. And you didn't let that stop you, even when you made choices to put a hurdle in your way at 16.
Yeah.
Because the child is a hurdle. Because when you're just still figuring yourself out, growing up, becoming an adult, and then raising a child, you're now 100% responsible for that child. And what do we do? And how do I do this? Even though you still have guidance in that from your parents. But just to take all of that and to the end result have 4 thriving children, 3 of which are in great careers, one of course still being in college, but the real estate business, being a real estate broker, I also know that business. So that's the front office is the taxes. This is the back office is the podcast. And then the fun part is the real estate. So, so I know all of these areas that your kids are involved in as well. So it's fabulous. Now, one of the things that we do like to do when we close out the show is to talk about our personal anthems. So with all of that, knowing that what you came from to where you are today, what would you say your personal anthem is?
It's CC Winans, I Love You, Lord.
That's nice. That's very inspirational. I like that. So we're definitely going to add that to our playlist. And Nichole, thank you so much for being with us today. And when do you think that your book, you said you're starting your memoir?
I have started the actual outlining and try to process how I want to put it together. Trying to come up with different titles. I laugh because my daughter is like, no, that title's not good. We got to find another one.
But that's the fun part. Yeah. But you're starting to just put it out there, put it out to the universe. I mean, that's the big thing. That's where all these synchronicities and I'll tell you, the Smurf thing, a childhood friend that I grew up with, that we no longer speak, a friend of hers or somebody that she associates with, she just messaged me last week with a picture of a Smurf.
Oh, wow.
And she says, I was sitting here with a friend and they brought up the Smurf. And she says, I remember your Smurfs. I actually have a set of like 20 Smurfs from the 1970s that I used to put in this glass case. And I was like 5, 6 years old or whatever. And I remember always setting them up on their feet and getting mad when they get knocked over. But I haven't been able to find that box yet. It's still stuck in the attic somewhere at my dad's house. I haven't cleared the attic yet. And just there's couple things that I'm still going through with his stuff, but she just sent me that picture. I remember these, and so when you said Smurf, I was like, "There's a synchronicity right here." So you were meant to be here. That was the universe.
That's how I was gonna say. I already knew that this was a divine appointment.
Yes.
As soon as you woke up, and everyone's been saying, for probably 10 years, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. To finally, I'm like, okay, I'll think about it.
Yes. Yes.
And then for you to just wake up and be like, hey, I'm doing this passion project. Oh, me too.
So let's do it. Let's do it. And so I'm so happy that you joined us today.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you again for joining us on this week's episode of Life Between Coasts. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to grow our community of listeners. We'd like to thank Nichole again for joining us, and we hope you have a great week. And until then, bye-bye.